Good morning, everyone. So this is today's pattern. Unfortunately, my printer is out of ink, so I can't print it off just yet, but hopefully at some point during this tutorial, I will have my ink in. I'm waiting for it to be delivered. But we are making the Crochet Sontag with I'm gonna not say this right. I even Googled it. It's the fringe on the shoulder. It's the same thing what they call like in a military uniform with the things that are on the shoulders. It's that same pronunciation, but you know, I'm kind of simple, so I don't know how to pronounce it. And I would imagine everybody is going to pronounce it for me in the comments. I think this is absolutely beautiful. It is working with Tunisian crochet, as you can see there. I believe it requires a 5mm Tunisian crochet hook. Googled it again and it's epaulette. That's how it's pronounced. But this pattern requires a bell gauge 6. Somebody was and this is a bell gauge from 1847. So it would have been used in the 1860s. And it says right there, UK 6 equals metric in millimeters, 5mm. So that is what I am basing this on. Today's pattern comes to us from 1866. We will be using worsted weight, just regular number 4 worsted weight yarn, and a 5mm Tunisian crochet hook. The pattern says to make this in scarlet for the main part, and then black or gray. I will be going with gray for the border. So these are the colors I'm going to use, and I think they look very, very Victorian. I love it. So if you're not super familiar with Tunisian crochet, this is going to be a very simple pattern, as the whole thing is worked essentially in simple Tunisian stitch, or basic tricot stitch as it was called then, plain tricot stitch. We will be, and of course you will need to get yourself an that upside down, 5mm Tunisian crochet hook. Okay, we're going to start with 5 chains. In this pattern, we will be working with increases and decreases in Tunisian crochet. So if you don't know how to do that, well, this is the perfect video to learn, because not only will you learn, but you will make something beautiful with it. I like to try to keep my stitches perfectly consistent with Tunisian. 1, 2, 3. And of course, I'm working these a little loose. 4, 5. You want to work a little loose at the start with Tunisian, or it'll curl up. It's going to curl, but it'll curl up even worse if you're not loose right at the start. Okay, now with Tunisian crochet, the loop on your hook is your first stitch. We also will be working in the back bumps. Tunisian crochet, you should work in the back bumps to help reduce an intense curl. It's going to curl no matter what, but it will curl even worse if you are working into the little side bumps here. You should be working in the back bumps. We're going to skip the first back bump. We're going to work this first row loose, again, to help reduce an intense curl. There will, of course, be a curl, but we can control how intense it is. We go into that first back bump and we pull up a loose loop, and we repeat that all the way to the end. The last bump, there we go, and we should have 5 loops on the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn over. With Tunisian crochet, you always yarn over and pull through just 1 loop on your return pass. That is your chain 1. Then you will yarn over and pull through 2 on all the other like return stitches. Pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. There we go. Now we're going to work an increase. For the first, just a moment, let me look on the computer for the pattern. First 33 rows, we're going to increase every stitch. Now you'll note we started with an odd number. We're going to end with an odd number. So at the end of our 33rd row, we should have 71 stitches. And these are the stitches right here. that you want to count. Oop, there we go. Those little bars, each bar is a stitch. So right now we have 5, and we're going to increase that to 7. So in this pattern, they use a different technique than I use for increases. I will show you both ways so that you have an option based on what you see and what your preference is. So in the original 1866 pattern, this is an increase. You will go into the space right here between the stitches, the whole space, just like that. Pull up a loop, and that is your increase. Note though, it does create a gap. Now you will go into the next bar, your next stitch, and pull up a loop. Again, one more time, and then just before we get to our last stitch, we're going to go into this space and work another increase. That's an increase. Now, this stitch right here off to the side is the stitch you're going to work into at the end of every row. It looks like a regular crochet stitch. Here you can see we have the top of our work right here. The stitch that we have to end every row in is actually on the side of the work right here. So you will turn your work to the side, go into that stitch, and pull up your last loop. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have worked our increases, but we've also caused some gaps. That's what this type of increase can tend to do. We only just pull through 1 every time, and on the return pass, we always pull through just 1 loop as our chain 1. Then we pull through 2, 2, all the way to the end, 2, 2, and 2. So we have created gaps with those increases. We'll do that one more time. We go into the space between the stitches right here and pull up a loop. That is the increase. And then we just carry on. Before we work our last stitch, we have to work into this space to create another increase. Just like that. Then we turn to the side, and right here, these 2 loops that look like a regular single crochet is our last stitch right there. Then we just pull through 1, and then pull through 2 and 2 all the way to the end. It's the same every row for 33 rows. There we go. I'm not the biggest fan of the big space that this kind of increasing leaves. I just don't particularly care for it. That's just my personal preference. A lot of people like it because it is very, very easy. The way I like to work increases is also easy. I like it because it's a little more closed knit. Okay, so the way I work an increase is I simply yarn over, and that's my increase. I've added another bar on the hook, which means I've added another stitch on the hook, and that's it. So now we go into the next stitch over, and we start working our stitches. Yarn over, and I work my last stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pull through just 1, and then pull through 2, 2, all the way to the end. Now your first stitch you have to work into is ever so slightly buried, just because it is a yarn over. So it's not anchored down yet, but it's right here. So you just want to make sure that you don't overlook it. You do have to make sure that you don't miss it. You can see that there. Here's a normal stitch here, and here's our first stitch, which was our yarn over. So I'll go into that first stitch there, which was our yarn over, which was our increase. Actually, I need to yarn over first. Then, because that's my increase, now I'm going to work into my increase. Now I have 3 on the hook because of that yarn over is the increase. And here we go. Oh, my next yarn over increase I need to work into, it's kind of slanted off to the side. You just have to make sure you pick it up, then yarn over and work your last stitch on the side of your work here. Just like that. Pull through 1 and then 2 all the way to the end. I will have to go back and redo this because this is big. I don't like how open this is because I worked in it so much. I'm going to have to redo that. That's fine. So I'm going to keep my yarn kind of around the hook a little. I'm not going to work so loose anymore. I want my edges to be tight and even. Like, see, they're nice and clean right here, but they're a little loose over here because I've been working kind of loose. You really only need to work loose the first row, maybe the second row. Now I'm going to yarn over again. Make sure that I pick up that sideways little slanted bar right there. And I'm just going to keep going, increasing every row for 33 rows. There's my little sideways slanted stitch. Make sure I pick that up, yarn over. And also it's helpful that when you start to get a routine in your brain, whenever I pick up my last little slanted stitch, I have to yarn over immediately after for the increase. This is a very, very fun pattern. I like it. Okay, yarn over. Make sure I pick up that little slanted stitch right there. Now I have 3 on the hook and we just continue. Gaining 2 more stitches every single row. Isn't this nice though? We don't have to turn or anything like that. Oh, it's nice. My last little slanted stitch, I pick it up and that signals to me I need to also immediately yarn over. Go into my last stitch there on the end. Just like that. Pull through 1, then 2, all the way to the end. And I'm going to show you how this looks now with no gaps, which is why I prefer the yarn over method for increasing. Decreasing is going to be super easy as well. Nothing fancy or extra really that we have to do. So here is how it is looking with no gaps. I really, really like it. It's just my preferred method. There we go. I think they both look nice. It's just what I prefer. Plus, we're going to be working a border along this side, and it's going to be nice to have some firm stitches to anchor into as we work, instead of something loose like this. Also, with Tunisian or tricot, we are going to be working a border, but look at this. Our stitches are already laid out for us. It's not like with regular single crochet. It's really easy to work a border. Okay, yarn over. Go into my little slanted stitch right here. Then start picking up all of my stitches across. Of course, as this continues to grow, it will get a little more difficult to handle the stitches if you're not used to working with Tunisian hooks. What I can tell you is as your piece grows, you're going to have stitches going down the bar. Don't be afraid to grab those stitches. It's okay. They're already worked. You're not going to manipulate or change them or ruin them in any way. They're already on the hook. They're already worked. Okay, work my last little slanted stitch right here, which tells me I need to immediately yarn over for my last increase. There we go. And then my last stitch right here on the end. Right there. And now you can see how this is working out. Looks quite nice. Part of me still wants to redo this on the side, but I think it's okay. I just really don't like how this is. Do you see how inconsistency in the tightness of the stitches? I really only needed to work them kind of loose on the first row, I think, but definitely not this loose. So I think I am going to undo my work, go back and fix it, because I don't like how this is. I don't like how it's looking longer on this side. So I'm going to redo that and make sure that I keep these stitches here on the side a little firmer. I like it better on this side. But that's what we're going to do for 33 rows. I will check in with you in just a moment and show you my progress and how it looks with a more cleaned up edge on this side. I'll be back. Okay, so I'm at my 33rd row. I have 71 stitches. I accidentally made 73. I got a little overzealous, so I had to undo one row. That's why these stitches look a little used. But I am at 71 stitches across, 33 rows. Now we're going to alternately increase. So we're going to increase, and then the next row we will not. This is row 33. We will do this until row 43, which means we're going to increase 5 rows and not increase 5 rows. So the question is, do we start without an increase or start with one? I'm going to go ahead and start with one because that's the way the pattern looks. It says increase alternately every other row until row 43. So I'm going to go ahead and increase my 34th row, but my 35th row I will not. So I'm going to increase the stitch over here and the stitch over here on this next row, work my stitches going back this way. Then the next row I will not increase anything at all. Work my stitches back. Then the next row I will increase both sides, work my stitches back. So that's how that's going to work out. So increasing this row, and I'm just going to fast forward through this process. Okay, coming up to the end here. My last stitch before my next increase, go into my very last stitch. Now I have 73 stitches across. And I'm just going to go ahead and work my return pass as usual, and I will just fast forward through this. Nothing new to see here. Okay, coming up to the end here. So I maintained 73 stitches on the return pass. No reason not to. Now this next row here, I'm not going to increase. I'm just going to jump right into my first little sideways stitch there, which is the last row's increase. And I'm going to maintain 73 stitches. So this is my non-increase row. And then I'm going to work my return pass as usual, which again will maintain the 73 stitches. And then after that, the next row, I will work 75 stitches. My return pass on that row will maintain 75 stitches. Then the next full row will maintain 75 stitches, including the return pass. The row after that, I will move up to 77 stitches, and so on until I'm at row 43, or let's see, how many stitches does it say total? 81 stitches, 81 stitches across. So there we go. I will be right back for our next increase row. I'll work that one with you guys, and then I will let I said, and then. And then we will just carry on. Okay. Grab my last stitch here, or at least my last bar. And then without increasing, I'm just going to work into my stitch on the side right here. Right there. Okay. And then work my return pass like usual. Now the next row up, we will work an increase. So that is how we're going to work these stitches until we have 81 stitches on our hook, and we have reached row 43. Okay, now for the next row up, I will go ahead and yarn over, and that's my increase, and into the very first bar right here, that's just a regular stitch, we start working. And I'll repeat this on the other end just before I work into my very last stitch off to the side. So that's it. We'll do this until we reach row 43 and we have 81 stitches on the hook. I will be right back when I get to that point. Okay, now I'm at 43 rows and I have 81 stitches. Now it says to work the next 3 rows with no decreases and no increases. So we're going to work from row 43 to 46, just regular, back and forth, no increases, no decreases. So here we go. Just maintaining our 81 stitch count. So I will be back whenever I get to row 46. Okay, I'm up to 46 rows now. Now it wants us to count 7 stitches in the middle for the neck. So I'm going to get some stitch markers. They tell us that we should have 37 stitches on each side, so I'm just going to count 37 stitches in and mark that and count 37 stitches this way. All right, so 37 stitches this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. Okay, so I'm going to put my stitch marker around the 38th stitch. And then again on this side. 4, 35, 36, 37. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. I'm going to put this around the 38th stitch going this way. Now there are my 2. I'm not going to work through any of these 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. Okay, so working the first panel. So what we will have to do when we're done making the first panel is come over here and join the yarn. I've never joined yarn in the middle of Tunisian crochet work before, so I will practice with it a little bit before I show you for sure how to do it, like I'm a little Miss Smarty Pants. Because I don't really know what I'm doing when it comes to that. I'm really new at Tunisian crochet. I've made flat panels before, basically. Well, that's not true. I've made a few things in Tunisian crochet. It's always been in simple stitch, though. I believe what we're going to need to do is probably just like join around here and then just start working. Okay. So the first 3 rows, it said we do not increase or decrease. So I'm going to work these first 3 rows of 37 stitches with no increases and no decreases. So I will be right back. There we go. And for the record, if you're counting along the side, that's going to put us at 49 rows. We're at 46 now. We're working on 47, 48, and 49. Well, I figured I would actually start this panel with you. I thought to myself, no, you can start this with them. Okay, so I have my 37 stitches cast on. So now we just simply, like we've been doing, we just yarn over and pull through only one, then pull through two all the way to the end, and we will do this again 2 more times. So forward and backward equals 1 row. Okay, I will be back. Well, I guess I can work this to the end with you. I did pick up a Sontag pattern that was from it was either the very early 1900s or it was the very late 1800s, and it was vastly more complicated than this one. And it was working with single crochet, but whenever I looked up the history on Sontags, I saw somebody, a bit of an authority on the topic, as these are historical recreators professionally, and they recreate knit and crochet, embroidery and beadwork professionally. And they said that Sontags are the kind of thing that it's basically, like what you saw in the beginning. It is a shawl that is rather utilitarian. It can be worn while keeping the hands and arms free to do your work during the day. And back in the day, a lot of things like petticoats, coats, and household things were made with tricot, or Tunisian crochet because of the strength and durability of it. They even made hammocks with Tunisian crochet and hanging chairs with Tunisian crochet. They would reupholster chairs and other furniture items, make rugs with Tunisian crochet, because it's such a utilitarian, tough stitch. And so they were never made with single crochet or double crochet or anything like that. In this garment's heyday, they were only made with a tight knit stitch or a tricot. I'm probably pronouncing it right. It's probably pronounced like tricot, Tricot. Tricot is the way my brain translates that word. Also known modern day as the Tunisian stitch or the Afghan stitch. And this is how they were made. They weren't made any other way. So you'll see some patterns that might be floating around out there that are like a single crochet or a double crochet Sontag. It's not really the traditional way of making it. That is a good way. They're good patterns to have for those who don't like to do Afghan stitch or don't have Afghan hooks. So likely that's why those patterns were wrote, for accessibility to those who don't do this type of work. But traditionally, they were made knit or with the Afghan stitch, tricot stitch, Tunisian crochet, simple stitch, all kinds of names for it. Okay, y'all, I'm going to work one more row of this since we just worked 2 rows together, and I will be right back. Okay, let's begin the decreasing. So at this point, your work should look like this: a row of open work at the top, but when you look down here at the side, you will see, pardon me, 1, 2, 3 solid rows worked. So now we're going to decrease 1 stitch for the next 14 rows, but no. We're going to decrease, it's worded, it's a little worded a little strange. We're going to decrease 1 stitch 14 times at every 3rd row. Now that doesn't mean 14 times in a row, but for 14 total decreases, it's going to work out like this. The first row, decrease. Then work 2 rows in plain simple Tunisian stitch, no decreasing. Then the next row, decrease. Now we have 2 rows of decrease, 2 of the 14 rows, and 2 not decreased. Then we work 2 rows with no decreasing again, and another row with decreasing. Now that's 3 rows of decreasing. 2 rows no decreasing, 1 row with decreasing. Now that's 4 rows with decreasing, 10 more to go, but each row that we decrease just 1 stitch, we have 2 rows non-decrease rows between. So, and we are only going to decrease this inner part next to the neck. This part right here will not get the decrease. So let's do that. I should write that down. Let me write that down. Here is basically the breakdown. The next row we're about to work, we're on row 49 now. Row 50 works 1 decrease stitch on the inside next to the neck. Row 51 and 52, no decrease. 53, decrease. 54, 55, no decrease. Keep alternating it that way. Every 2 rows on the 3rd row gets 1 decrease on the inner neck area, and we continue to work this until there are only 23 stitches left on our hook. Then we're going to do more decreasing, but it will be a little different. Okay, so that's why they say 14 times. So here's 1 decrease, here's 2 decrease. Now 12 more decreases have to be done, but in between each decrease row, we have 2 rows of plain Tunisian simple stitch with no decrease. I hope that makes it a little bit more easy to understand rather than me just blindly telling you, especially when I can't show you the physical pattern. So just continue that. See, like row 56 will have a decrease. Then row 57, 58, no decrease. Row 59, decrease. Rows 60 and 61, no decrease. You get it now. So let's go. It will be our first decrease row. This is row 50. Here we go. If I can even... Boy, that first stitch is a tricky one. Just teasing. I'm just all thumbs sometimes. All right, let's just work our way over to the end, where I will show you how we're going to work a decrease before we work all the way over to the end. Well, it sounds like somebody's building a whole house outside. I don't know what they're doing, but man, pretty noisy for 7 a.m. Okay, we're coming close to the end now. These last 2 stitches right here, we're going to decrease. Okay. Now to work a decrease, again, here's our very edge stitch. Here are the last 2 stitches. And to work a decrease, you just go under both loops and pull up 1. And that is a decrease. Now we will work into our stitch on the side. And there we go. Yarn over, pull through 1, then pull through 2, just like normal. Now, the next 2 rows after this, rows 51 and 52, we will not do any decreasing at all. Okay, then we just work 2 more rows, and remember, a row isn't complete until it's solid filled in like this one right here. Okay, so we need 2 more rows that are solid filled in like these. I'm going to work 2 rows in plain simple Tunisian stitch. You can see it's already curving in, and that is what our decrease looks like right there. Pretty cool, huh? Increasing and decreasing with Tunisian crochet is really simple. Very, very easy. I really enjoy it. All right, 2 rows of plain stitch, because that's what they're calling it, is plain. Now, bear in mind, they don't mean plain single crochet. They do mean plain Afghan stitch or tricot stitch, Tunisian stitch, all the different names. I mean, at this point, let's just call it Darth Vader. Might as well. All right, y'all. I will be back whenever I have 2 rows done. Okay, I've got my 2 rows worked. Here you can see. Here is my decrease row right here. And then I've got 2 rows worked. There's my decrease row and then the 2 rows worked after. And then you should have a row of open work after you've worked your 2 rows. So decrease row, then 1 and 2. Now we're going to work another decrease row. So I will just work my way over to the end really quick. I'll just fast forward through this part for you. Okay, we're coming up to the end here, and here we have our edge stitch, and the 2 stitches just before it, we're going to decrease just like we did before. So I work this last stitch here, and then in the next 2 stitches over, we go under one, under the other one, and that is our decrease. Then I just work my edge stitch as normal. There we go. And then work my return pass. And after this, I will work 2 more rows in plain. I'm not exactly sure. I'm just going to call it what the pattern is calling it, in plain tricot stitch. So that is what I will do. And if I'm honest, all of the tricot patterns or Tunisian hook patterns, Tunisian crochet patterns that I found from the Victorian era really only used this one stitch, with the exception of the gentleman's scarf. That one was the only one. That's why I had to feature it on my channel, because it used a totally different stitch, and one I never even seen before. So they pretty much all use this plain Afghan stitch. Okay, guys, I'm going to jump off of here and work my 2 rows, but that is my 1 row of decrease right there. I'll be right back. Subtle decrease going this way. Okay, so now I have 23 stitches. This is the 43rd row, the 43rd being from the point of our our front panel, sorry. So I have 43 rows worked, 23 stitches across. Now it says, here we go, 43rd row, 23 stitches on the needle, then work alternately 1 row plain and 1 row decreasing as before explained to the 72nd row, which must then consist of 8 stitches. So now we're going to work every other row a decrease. Bear in mind, 1 row is forward and backward. So that is what makes 1 row. You know you've completed 1 row whenever you have open work at the top. So now we're going to work every other row, decrease and not decrease until we have 8 stitches left. So this will be a decrease row, I think. Let's see here. I just worked a decrease row. Do I really want to work another one? I think I'm going to do this one plain and then the next one decrease. I don't know if that's a smart idea. That's what I'm going to do. So yeah, I'm not going to decrease this row because I already have a decrease there. So I'm going to work this all the way back. This makes 1 row completed, no decrease. All right, now this will be my decrease row. I have 2 stitches left. I'm going to decrease those. Work my last stitch on the end. Work my return pass, and then the next row I will not decrease. The row after that I will. So I'm going to continue to do this until there are 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Till there are 8 stitches left. I'll be right back. Just looking at the pattern again, it does start off by saying, then work alternately 1 row plain and 1 row decreasing. So maybe they want us to start off this first row plain, so not decreased, and then, so maybe this is the correct way to do this. So again, I'll be right back whenever I have 8 stitches left. Okay, I am now down to 8 stitches left, and it says crochet these 8 stitches regularly, decreasing in every row until there is but 1 left. So let's start off with a decrease. There we go. Now there's 2 stitches on the hook. 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to decrease these last 2 stitches. 5, and then my last stitch here on the end. That makes 6. There we go. And it says every row, yes. So we're going to decrease these 2 stitches, 2 on the hook, and then 2 more decreased, 3 on the hook, 1 on the end, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we just have 2 stitches left to decrease, 2 workable stitches left to decrease, 2 on the hook now. We are down to 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and that's it. There's just 1 left on the hook. I have to turn the page, so to speak, which forms a point. Okay, we have the point now. Now that the Sontag is finished, Oh, I guess they're assuming we did the other side. We got to do the other side. Work one row of double crochet round it to keep it in shape. That is a UK double crochet is a US single crochet. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and chain one and cut. And begin repeating this on the other side. So I've never joined onto Tunisian crochet before, so this is going to be a totally new experience for me. And I think I'm just going to go into, here's the stitch I don't want to work into. Here's the space just before the stitch I don't want to work into. And that's where I'm going to go ahead and join. I hope that's the right way. Okay. And I will chain one. And I think I should not work in this first because that's going to be considered the stitch worked. So I'm just going to work, and it said the first 3 rows plain. So I think that looks right to me. Yes, don't work into your first. Here is the space we joined into right here. You can see that strand coming out of that space right here. So this is now hovering on top of this first bar. Do not work the first bar just like we normally do. Normally we don't work the first bar because that's the end bar. So now this time, whenever we work our decreases, we're going to work them on this side, on the neck side. So we're going to work our first 3 rows plain, no decreases. Okay, so I'm going to be right back. I'm going to work these first 3 rows plain. And of course, when you get down to the end, just count the little bars on your hook and make sure that there are 37 of them. Okay, so before I move on, let's just count together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, and 37. Okay, so my first 3 rows plain. I will be back and we will work the decrease together. And then after that, what you're going to want to do is repeat exactly everything we did on this side. The difference being when you start your next row, your decrease rows, that's where you're going to work your decrease. Instead of it being at the end of the row, it will be at the beginning. Okay? So I will be right back whenever it's time to work our first decrease row after the first 3 plain rows. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3 rows worked, and of course some open work on top. Now we're going to work the first decrease, and just like in the first front panel, every 3 rows we work a decrease. So there will be a row of decrease, and then 2 rows following will be plain, and then a row of decrease. So here we go. We're just going to go right in under the first 2 loops, pull up, and that's our decrease. And then just carry on. Now the next 2 full rows after this will be no decrease, and then that will be followed by 1 row of decrease for 43 rows. We should have 23 stitches on our hook before we're ready to move on. So I'm going to power through these as fast as I can, and I will be right back with you. Okay, I have completed the second front panel. So here is what we have now. It's starting to look like a pair of long johns, if I'm honest. So now what it wants us to do is work a round of single crochet all around it. So what I would do at this point is go ahead and ditch the Tunisian hook and grab your regular crochet hook. So here's my recommendation. They don't say how to do this. They simply say work a round of single crochet. But since we are working with Tunisian crochet and it's very curly, as you can see, it's curly. I think if we were to, don't chain, just turn and into that very first stitch right there, these all look like single crochets across the top. And right into your very first stitch, just start working your first single crochet and in every stitch down. And if we work this way, the stitches are going to help pull the ends a little flatter. They won't be completely flat, but watch here, I'll throw a few stitches in. Bear in mind, we're going to come up this way the same way. So this is just one side of it. We just give this a little tug, straighten out these single crochets we just worked, and it is helping to straighten it out a little bit. And here's how it looks on this side. And I think it looks curly, very nice. So let's just keep working single crochets with the wrong side facing. And the wrong side facing looks like knit stitching, like purl knit stitching, or I don't know, what kind of knit stitch is that? Is that just a knit stitch? Is that what that's called? I'm not real familiar with knitting, you guys. All I know is that knit people make stitches that look just like that. So work one single crochet into every stitch around. I'm going to jump back on whenever we get down here to this point of separation. And I think what I'm going to do is just cast these stitches off. Meaning I think we're just going to work slip stitches here. And that's going to help cast those stitches off. Or we could just probably work single crochets around the bars. We'll experiment when we get to this point and see which way we like the way it looks better. So I'll be back whenever I get to my stitch markers. Okay, here is what I found I think I like best with working in this area of separation. I'm going to go ahead and remove the stitch markers. And we do have the wrong side of the work facing. So what I am doing is jumping on the back side here, which is actually going to be the right side out. These are the stitches we usually work on, are the ones in the front right here, but we're working in the back. So just jump back here and pick up a loop and work a single crochet in it, just like that. Pick up one of these loops and work a single crochet, and I'll show you the result. Work a single crochet all the way across, should be 7 of them. Here we go. And I think I just have, yeah, just one more. There we go. And then I'll work my first stitch right here just to tie it all together. And here is how it looks. And it looks like it's been bound off, but that's because we worked the single crochets into those loops. So I think that created a nice clean finish to that part. So let's just keep working our single crochets into every stitch around, and I will be back when we are ready to start our border. When you're done with all of your single crochets, join with a slip stitch into your first single crochet, cut and weave in all ends, and then come on back and we're going to start the border. So I made it to my first point, and what I wound up doing was working 2 single crochet into the very point stitch to create a curve that didn't want to curl in on itself. So I'll undo those so that you can see what I did there. So worked my way up, and there is 2, it looks like 2 chains right here leading up to the point. So I worked in each one of those chain looking stitches, 1 single crochet into each of them. Then I got to my point stitch right here, and I went ahead and worked 1 single crochet and then just 1 more into the same stitch, just to make it easier on this end not to curl. Without that additional stitch, it will do this. If we jump over to the next stitch, it's going to start curling. You can see that. See there? It's starting to curl. So that's why I opted to work an additional stitch into that point stitch. And I'm also just feeding my tail in along the way. Okay, I just wanted to jump on and share that with y'all, that is the way I am working the points. Hello. Okay, so I said hello. It's because it's been so long since I've actually last saw you guys on here. I have been working for hours and hours, just hours and hours, trying to figure out this border. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. Just a moment. Just a moment. I hate that I have to do this on the computer because my ink is, I don't know when it's going to be here. There's not even any tracking on it. Anyways, this makes no sense. First of all, it does say the border must be done very loosely and with a strong hook. Okay. Right, here we go. Cast on 6 stitches. Now, they don't mean on the Tunisian hook. This is on the regular crochet hook. Cast on 6 stitches. Crochet in these 6 double stitches. That doesn't make sense. But I just went ahead and chained 7 instead of 6. Then turn the work and do 3 long stitches. So that's going to be 3 double crochet for the Van Dyke. So the Van Dyke is what we today know as the granny stitch, where you've got 3 stitches, 3 double crochet come out of 1 stitch. Then in every stitch of the preceding row, 1 double stitch. Bear in mind, this is a UK Victorian pattern, so a double stitch is a single crochet. Always pushing both of the upper threads of the stitch front. Now, actually what they mean here is working the back loop only. In the following row, as well as for all remaining rows, crochet 3 chain stitches at the beginning. It no longer talks about a Van Dyke stitch. Put, however, each of these double stitches in the hinder part of the 2 uppermost threads, so the back loop only, of the double stitch of the single crochet of the preceding row. In the next row, into the front. So they want you to work in one direction, going back loop only. Then turning and going in the opposite direction, work front loop only, because they want those ridges to only be on one side. That's what the rest of this is going to explain, see? It's going to say right here, only one side of the work presents, I'm sorry, my phone is blocking a little bit of this. Only one side, Karina. One side of the work presents nothing but seams. The other side, nothing of the sort is visible, as appears in the design. This actually does not appear in the design. The larger, okay, then it says right here, crochet the stripe that has little Van Dykes on both sides. The larger leaf-like Van Dykes will be added afterward by a long row to reach the armhole from the front point of the Sontag. Now, after reading all of that, we move on to the next row. So they showed us how to do the first row up here. Now they're showing us how to do the next row. Actually, they showed us how to do, told us how to do rows 1 and 2 here. Now we're going to do row 3 way down here. It says in the next row, after the 6 double stitches, by the way, by the end of row 2, you do not have 6 double crochet. You only have 5, because one of them we had to work a Van Dyke stitch in. So this automatically is very confusing to me. In the next row, after the 6 double stitches, and yes, they do show us right here, cast on 6 stitches, crochet in these 6 double stitches. So makes 6 single crochet. Then turn the work and do 3 long stitches for the Van Dyke. Then in every stitch of the preceding row, of row 1 basically, work a single crochet stitch. So now down here, row 3, in the next row, after the 6 double stitches, increase in the first chain of the outer Van Dyke, and in the following row, increase 1 stitch, so that the stripe will be 8 single crochet wide. Crochet in these 30 rows for the capulets. Epaulets. Okay. Then decrease 1 single crochet to 6, which is the width of the trimming round the back. On the other side of the epaulet, toward the front, the width must be reduced to 6 stitches. They just told us to do that down here already. Nothing about this makes any sense. The trimming on the inner edge must only be 5 stitches. So I'm assuming that's going to be the edge that crosses over your chest. The Van Dykes, which complete the outer edge, are made on the seam side of the work. So here's what confuses me. here is our picture. Nothing that they told us to do is in this picture. These are simple Tunisian stitches. These are simple Tunisian stitches, just thicker and fluffier. These are going to be those clover. They're going to talk about clover stitches. Really, they're just, well, they're clover stitches, yeah. So on the edge right here, there are no Van Dyke stitches. Perhaps there are only chain 3s as they ask for, but there are no Van Dyke stitches here, and there are no Van Dyke stitches here. What I see is 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of simple Tunisian stitch. I mean, am I crazy? Nothing that they described is in this photo. I'll show you. Absolutely drove me crazy for hours, but I came up with an alternate way. Sometimes we just have to make the pattern work. I will make this pattern available to pick up. I will not link this video to it, as it is not it's not going to be a 100% step-by-step tutorial according to the pattern. So you can pick the pattern up though if you would like. So, okay, I'm going to use a bigger hook, and it does say in the beginning of the pattern that a wooden Tunisian hook is used for basically the body of the Sontag, and then a large bone hook is used for the border. So I did bump up to a 7mm. Okay, it wants us to chain 6, 4, 5, 6. Already, we cannot work 6 stitches in this. So I'm going to chain 7 and work 7 single crochet. They did call them double. They do not mean US modern double crochet. Back then, this is 1866, so back then both US and UK crocheters only knew that of a double stitch being a modern single crochet. No other stitch would have made sense to them being called a double. Now, a long they knew as a double crochet, what we know as a double crochet. Okay, there are my 6 stitches. Now it says to work the 3 double crochet, or 3 long as it calls it, for the Van Dyke stitch. 2 and 3. Then it said in the remaining doubles from the previous row, so the remaining single crochet, work a back loop only, single crochet. Now we only have 5 single crochet, but it says 6. It says now in the next 6. There are no next 6. Okay, now it says to chain 3 at the start of every row. At first it does not say to make Van Dyke stitches, but at the very end of all those instructions, it says make the stripe or the strip with little Van Dykes on both sides. So I can only assume they mean to chain 3 so that we can start the next Van Dyke stitch, because they want little Van Dykes on both sides. It clearly says it in the pattern. Now I only have 4 single crochets to work into, but it wants me to make an increase. So working in the front loop only now. 1, 2, it does say to double here, 3, so 2 stitches into the same, 2 stitches into the same stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3. I'm supposed to have 8 double crochet by the end of this row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'll put 2 here on the end because it does say to increase the chain 3, the top of the chain 3 of the Van Dyke stitch, the outer Van Dyke stitch. Now we chain 3 again because it says to chain 3 at the beginning of every row. We work the Van Dyke stitch. I can only assume because it does say that this whole stripe or strip needs to have little Van Dykes on both sides. Okay, now we're going to work back loop only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So then do I stop here and turn? Okay, I can do that. Let's chain 3. By the way, I've done all of this already. We're going to work front loop only. Oh, wait, I have to do the Van Dyke stitch first. Now I'm only going to have 7 single crochet to work into because I just ate one of them with this stitch. And yes, I did also work this where you work 9 single crochet so that you have 1 for your Van Dyke stitch. The pattern doesn't call for that, and it only wound up growing out, which, by the way, this is going to grow like this. It's not going to be a straight stripe at all. And I'll work this next row here so that you have 3 rows you can see, or a few rows. 2, 3. Let me make it a little brighter as well. There we go. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And there we go. Now, you look at this. This is our border. This is meant to go along the outer portion. Okay, we've got Van Dykes on both sides like it asked for. And do you see which way these stripes are going? They're going, the little ridges here, they're going this way. But in the picture, the ridges were all going this way, and they were so clearly Tunisian stitches. They weren't ridges like this. They were Tunisian stitches. Nothing about this border makes sense. Let's look at the picture again. Okay, let me zoom in for you. These are Tunisian stitches, right? The little bars going up and down, the little sideways stitches. These are also Tunisian stitches. They are plainly Tunisian stitches. This is the stitch that they just had us make. It doesn't look anything like. If I were to stitch this to the side of the deal, which, by the way, this is the edge, because I read on, this is the edge that we are meant to sew to the side of the Sontag. Where are the Van Dyke stitches on this side? And there are no Van Dyke stitches on this side, only these shells. And these shells are a single crochet, a double crochet, a chain 2, double crochet, single crochet with a picot where the chain 2 is. So these are not Van Dyke stitches. These are little shells. There are no Van Dyke stitches anywhere on this border. No part of it. So if you guys don't mind, I am going to just go our own way with this one and make this pattern work and try to make it look exactly like this. I intend to crochet a strip of Tunisian crochet, but following the stitch count that they called for. So starting off with 6, moving up to 8, then reducing down to 6, then ultimately 5. That way, whenever we sew it on, like this part right here is only supposed to be 5 stitches wide. The parts down at the points are only supposed to be 6 stitches wide. Up at the shoulders, they're supposed to be 8 stitches wide. So I'm going to continue to follow the stitch count, but there is no single crochets here. There are no Van Dyke stitches here. None, 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 none. I will die on that hill. So I figure we can sew it on. Look at how it looks. It matches now, doesn't it? It matches. So I figure we can sew it on here and then come back and do these shells. Yeah, my screen is, we can do these shell stitches after the fact. So we'll make a long strip as they've described how long the strip should be, and then we'll just sew it on. Okay, so here's how I figured out a different way to do the edging to make it look just like the picture. So it said that it wants 30 of our widest stitches, so 8 stitches wide on each shoulder. So what I did is I started right here and I just followed my finger down to what appeared to be the middle, just And that was where I put my stitch marker. I counted 14 stitches this way, 15 stitches this way, not counting, this one here was 1 to 15. And then I didn't count this stitch and just counted 14 this way to make 30. Then I counted my stitches all the way down to here. This is where I want the join to be, where it can be hidden, because once these are filled up, they're going to be able to reach over. So I counted from my 30th stitch all the way down. That was 33 stitches. Then I counted up. Well, actually, no. I mapped out the second shoulder over here. Okay, so then I counted all the way up. Yeah, that's Happy Mail. Counted all the way up and stopped where I put my stitch marker was, and I wrote those numbers down. I already know that these are 30. So it said that it, pardon me, we're to do 8 stitches on the shoulder, 8 stitches wide. And then down toward the back, it's 6 stitches wide all along the entire lower back area. Along the outer, all the way down to the front point is also 6 stitches wide. And then let me undo these. Okay. So from here to here, 6 stitches wide, and then all the way up to here, 6 stitches wide, then only 5 stitches wide for around the neck area. This is the area that's going to cross over the chest. All the way around the neck, and I just matched them up. They're a little bit tugged, but I matched them up point to point, as you can see. And I put my stitch marker, and then I just counted the rest of the stitches. So that was how I figured it out. So if you need to make this bigger, that's all you can do. And if you don't have a dress form, then hold it sorry to bump the camera, put it on you and have someone count the stitches out for you, count the rows out. So let's go ahead and get started on the border. This is the most complicated part, is trying to figure out the precise stitch count. Now, I think this is going to fit a small medium. I don't think it's going to fit me. I think it's meant to fit somebody with this body type, this frame, petite. So certainly you can make these bigger, because the fuller formed women absolutely wore these back in the day. And I think it's just a matter of, right down here, just make your stitches wider. Start with more stitches and work your way up and over, and maybe even add 10 extra rows back here if you need it. And then of course that means you have to match 10 extra rows up here, and I think that's what you need to do to make it bigger. So let's go ahead and start working on the edging. Here are the rows I wrote down as I was counting them. So from the bottom back point up toward the first shoulder, it's going to be 33 stitches wide. Then we increase to 8 wide, and that's going to be for 30 rows. And then we decrease to 6 wide, and that's going to be for 92 rows. Then we're going to, now that's going to be from the shoulder to around the front. Bottom, sorry, I don't know why my finger is shaking. How about I just do this? I'm still shaking. And then around the neck area is 5 wide for 105 stitches, and then I just work my way back up. Then I'll do 92, 30, and then 33. So that's how I worked it out for what I'm assuming to be a petite size or a small medium. Okay, so let's go ahead and start our strip. Now, if you don't have a 7mm, I'm going to use a 7mm hook. If you don't have one, a 6.5 will work just fine. So let's start with 6 chains. 4, 5, 6, turn, and we're just going to work our simple Tunisian stitch for 33 rows. Now I'm actually going to be making this in black for the actual final piece I'm making. I'm just going to be showing you examples with the gray, because it'll be easier for you to see. So then we just pull through 1 and pull through 2. And with this, we can just use our regular crochet hook. We don't have to fuss with the Tunisian hooks. I even tested it out with the extra 2 stitches. It does kind of pack on toward the end, but it still can be done. Okay, then we just go in. We're not doing any increasing or decreasing yet. So for 33 rows, come on back and I will show you our increase. There we go. I'm going to jump off and start this in black for myself. So I'm going to work actually a few rows of this up so that whenever it's time to increase, you'll be able to see it pretty well. I actually decided to switch to a 6.5 because I'm concerned that this might wind up being a little too, a little too wide. So let me show you. I did go ahead and work on the black a little bit. Let's look at the difference between the 7 and the 6.5. Now this is a Tunisian hook. The reason I'm opting for this is so that I can kind of avoid where the thumb area is. Okay. Let's just do a couple of rows in the 6.5 and then we already have all this made in the 7, and let's look at the difference. I think the 6.5 might be just a little bit better. Still giving us a nice fluffy stitch. I think it might be just a little bit better. I'll do one more just so we can really get a good idea of the difference. Because I'm genuinely making this whole thing for the first time on camera with you. So I'm figuring out, and that's, and that's really kind of one of the hardest parts about these vintage and especially antique patterns is trying to figure out the right hook and the right material. So it just makes it a little bit smaller, but just a little bit cleaner, I think. I think this is the route I'm going to go. Now let's see what it looks like whenever we go up to 8. How much wider will it get? How obvious the difference will be. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because remember, this isn't the total width. We are still going to be adding more embellishments all along the outer edge. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be the part that goes over the shoulder. Yeah, I think this is going to work out just fine. I think working with the 6.5 millimeter is going to be a lot nicer looking than the 7. The 7 was just kind of starting to look a little bit messy. Look, this looks nice and cleaned up. I think this looks really, really nice. So I would recommend 6.5 millimeter, okay? You can really see the difference in size. So yeah, it's a big difference. Okay, so that is the direction I am going to actually go. I'm going to start everything over with the 6.5. Okay, I will be back. I'm going to work my 30 rows. And then, well, I basically just showed you what you need to do. After 33 rows, go up to 8 wide. Then after 92 rows, decrease 2 stitches to go back down to 6 wide. And then after 30 rows, do that for 92 rows. And then for 105 rows, decrease 1 stitch to go down to 5 wide. And then just go 92, 30, and then 33, and you're done. That's really, so I guess I don't really need to show you because we already know how to do that from working the whole body of the thing. So I'm going to go ahead and work my whole strip, and I will be right back. Let's sew that border onto the piece. I'm going to start at the lower back end, and because I want the Tunisian design to be the same on the body as it is on the border, I'm going to work from the back. So starting right here in the most center stitch, I'm going to take my border. My yarn is still attached to it. Now you can see here, that's what I'm looking for. This Tunisian design, and this Tunisian design to be on the same level. So in order to do that, I need to hold these two this way. See how they're now the same, back and back. So let's join. Put that right there. There we go. And I'm just going to work a simple single crochet join. At first, I was doing the, let me see, that first stitch is hard to see. At first, I was doing slip stitch, but it was causing too much of a valley on the right side of the work. It was creating a divot, but the loose single crochet was not causing that problem at all. So even I struggle to see what my stitch is. My goodness. There we go. So I'm working loose. Here, I know you probably can't see that. I'm working loose single crochets. There we go. Again, loose. I know, I'm sorry about the black yarn, you guys. I just really thought this would look great with black yarn instead of the light gray. The light gray just wasn't quite working. I wanted it to be bolder on the border. But yeah, I'm just working, matching stitch for stitch. I'm going through both loops on each side and just working a loose, these are loose single crochets. Let me work a few of these up and I'll show you how it looks. But yeah, the slip stitches was just causing too much of a, it would go like this and stop and then come back out right where the join was. Just too much of a obvious clear join with the divot it was creating. You don't want to work these too tight because then you'll get that divot. Nice and loose. And since this is such a long piece, that's why I opted to do this instead of sewing it, because that would have been a lot. Okay, a few more stitches here, and then I will show you how it is looking. And it may still kind of look like it has a little bit of a divot, but if you just pull on a little bit, especially if you wash it and relax the yarn, that will disappear. All right. And there, the divot, actually the divot that I was dealing with the slip stitches is basically gone. Before it was looking like this with the slip stitches. You know, so now it just looks flat. Oops, I'm sorry. It just looks flat now, and I'm not pulling on it, as you can see. It's just relaxed. That's just how it is looking, so it's much better. So there you go. Work that all the way around, and when we come back, we're going to work on the embellishments all along the outer edge. So we're not done yet. Okay, guys, I'll be back. Okay, let's do the edging. Now, here's the thing. I had kind of a last-minute change to my pattern because someone that in my personal life that I was showing this to would like to have it for themselves. The only thing is they don't want the edging. They want it to have just the smooth edge like that. So, but I am going to show you what I came up with for the edging, and then we're going to move on to the rest of the pattern. So what I did is I just joined, right here is the lower back portion where the two sides will meet. So this is the lower back portion of that. And I joined with a single crochet all into the same stitch. Now, because of the join right here, I went ahead and worked this one stitch over two stitches. All the others will only be worked into one stitch. So starting right back here, I joined with a single crochet, then I worked a double crochet into the same stitch. Chain two, come back down and make a picot, and I'm going to show you how to do all that. Then I jumped over the join and into the next stitch over, I worked that way down. So double crochet, then single crochet. Then over the next two stitches, I worked one single crochet into each. Before, I only did one stitch and it caused rippling and bunching. So I found if you work a single crochet over the next two stitches, it gives you enough space. So here is how all of that looks. I just worked one of my shells, So now I'm going to work 1 single crochet, next stitch over, 1 single crochet. Next stitch over will start my next shell, and that starts also with a single crochet. So single, double, chain 2, picot, into the same stitch again, double crochet, single crochet, and then over the next 2 stitches, I work 1 single crochet into each. And into the 3rd stitch over, we start with a single crochet, then double crochet, chain 2 picot, double crochet, single crochet, next 2 stitches over, get 1 single crochet each, and then we just keep repeating, and it creates that effect. So, but I am going to undo this because the person who would like to have this just wants it to be a smooth edge. It's actually for her daughter for something for school, so adding the edging would make it too big for her. So I will be right back. We will work on the tie. Good news though, I got my printer ink in, but it's not using the black for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, looking at the instructions for the tie. Wants us to do with the tie, since again, I'm not going to worry about making that. It is a double strand of your wool, as it says. Make a chain. Make a chain as long as you need to fit around your waist with excess. You're going to attach each end of the chain to each point. You'll add the tassels on later. And you want it to be long enough to wrap around your waist, going back and then coming back around the front, which is where it will tie. So this is meant to be tied on. We're going to go with buttons. And of course, how we're going to do that is I'm going to attach some buttons here. That way, as it is being worn, the buttons will, or these portions right here will come around and button right in. I'm not going to worry about buttonholes here since there are already good enough holes that already exist. So that's how that's going to work. I'm going to pin this back on the mannequin and show you guys, I guess, the final results. Bear in mind, a thing like a Sontag is completely customizable. So what we're doing here is what they would have done back then. They may have, oh, as far as the epaulets, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. You just make tassels and make sure that your tassels are all even down here. So you want to make the length of the tassel different to the point and then smaller back down. That's how they advertise doing the tassels. So again, here is the final result. We've seen this before. Before I let this go, I'm going to do 1 round of single crochet along the entire edge to clean the edge up. I think it's very beautiful. I know, I still have my happy mail right there. It looks great. It's going to fit a small petite frame. If you want this bigger, again, like I mentioned before, definitely go with a bigger hook. Definitely go with a bigger hook and add your starting rows. Make them just 2 or 3 or 4 more. And that should make it bigger for you. And of course, add more rows on the back portion whenever we're not doing any increasing or decreasing. That's the point whenever you want to start just adding extra rows, 5, 7, or 8 extra rows. But bear in mind, whatever you add to the back panel, you also have to do here on the front panels. Because, you know, some of us are gifted in the chest area and we need more coverage, more length, and more width. So there is that, and I think it is gorgeous. You guys let me know what you think. I'm sorry I wasn't able to work the edging. I showed you how to do the edging, but I'm not gonna lie, I think it looks beautiful as is as well. I'm in full agreement. So that's it for this video. You will find a link to the pattern in the description box down below, and I will see you guys real soon for our next Victorian era pattern.